Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our Manchester webinar this evening. I'm happy to welcome all of our investors from around Asia. Thank you for joining us today. I'm very pleased to have two of our guest speakers this evening, William Chan from Salboy, as well as Oscar Hardy from Libra Education. And I hope that this evening will be an insightful session for all of you who are thinking about investing in Manchester, as well as planning for your further education for your children in Manchester. Before we begin, I would like to firstly introduce our company, Benham and Reeves. If we are not familiar to you, we are actually a UK specialist headquartered in London. Through our experience and know-how on the UK rental investment, we have been helping our buyers to also diversify in other cities in the UK, such as Manchester. We provide a multitude of services, as you can see from this property wheel, from the very beginning of your journey, where we give you advisory session in terms of what to invest, hand-holding you throughout the purchasing process by recommending you to the right solicitors and the right mortgage advisors to fund your property investment. On completion, I know that UK is 10,000 miles away. We have a dedicated team on the ground that can help you with the handover and snagging. And of course, we always want to provide the full service. So we have our own sister company called Install Direct that can help you with the furnishing of your property. Again, we will also be able to help you with the rental management of property. And we also have our own in-house tax team that can help you with the annual tax returns. Eventually, when you have experience and enjoy the rental income for many years and you think about selling it later, our team will be dedicated to help you with the resales as well. Now, why Manchester? Manchester is often referred to as the capital of the North. It is not just a city, it's a vibrant hub of culture, commerce, and opportunity. With its rich history, thriving economy, and growing population, Manchester presents an enticing opportunity for property investors looking to capitalize on the city's promising growth prospects. Where Manchester is in relation to London. If you have been to Manchester from London, you will be able to know that you take the train from Euston Station and it's only 2 hours away, or a 3-hour car ride. It is easily commute with high-frequency train service throughout the day. In terms of the population growth, at the moment, it is at about 2.79 million and is constantly growing. When you look into investing in a city or moving into the city, you would like to know that they have excellent transport links. Manchester benefits from an excellent transport links, including major motorways, a well-connected rail network, and also international airport. This connectivity enhances the city's appeal to residents and investors alike, facilitating easy access to other major cities in the UK and beyond. With its strategic location and efficient transport infrastructure, Manchester is well positioned to attract tenants and buyers, ensuring strong demands for residential properties in the city. As I've mentioned, it is an international hub after London with various flights services around the world, including Hong Kong, Tokyo, Beijing, and even Dubai. Of course, it's very important to look at macroeconomic outlook of Manchester. One of Manchester's greatest strengths is its resilient and diverse economy. The city is home to a thriving business community with key sectors such as technology, finance, healthcare, and creative industries that drives the economic growth and innovation. Manchester's economy continues to outperform the national average, attracting businesses and talent from around the world. As a result, property investors like you and I can benefit from Manchester's strong economic fundamentals, which underpin the city's long-term growth and stability, as well as the reason why it is constantly regarded as the Northern powerhouse. In terms of the top 5 industry by number of employees, and it's still the same same in terms of rank up till 2023. You have a high percentage of professional, scientific, and technical industry, followed by business and finance, and of course, education and health. Also, in terms of the largest employment growth over the last 10 years, you can see that it ranks in terms of the different category. Renica is one of the construction, along with Domis, which is a partner of Salboy, which I will allow William to mention more about later. Of course, in terms of manufacturing as well, media, we all know that BBC had relocated to Media City, which is in Greater Manchester a couple of years ago. And other big institutions, global institutions such as Google, Barclays, Deloitte has also relocated and set base in Manchester. And that is also the reason why the population is growing and retaining young talent. Big global corporations have set up base in Manchester and continue to expand. Education as well is a multi-million business in the UK, including Manchester. All of these all of these education and universities are a short distance away in terms of commute from the development that we will be spotlighting today. And Manchester University, as you know, is best known for aerospace engineering, life sciences, biological science, and medicine. And Manchester Met University is well known for its commerce, accounting, finance, and law. Most importantly, you would be pleased to know that in terms of the population, student population growth, it has been increasing year on year. Last year alone, in terms of international student population, it has increased by 25%, which is a big contribution to the private rental sector, which I will talk about shortly. Now, when we talk about internal migration, as I've said, with all of these big companies that had set base in Manchester, you see a lot of migration, a big migration in terms of the population growth. In terms of study, you can see that Manchester has the youngest city in the UK with a median age of 30 years old. So without doubt, Manchester had the largest number of people moving to the city in 2021, followed by Birmingham and Leeds. These cities will continue to attract young people as they not only provide employment opportunities, but are popular and more affordable to alternative to London. Now, of course, everyone wants to know where the trend has been for the property market the last decade in Manchester or Greater Manchester. And it all boils down to affordability. Compared to property prices in London and other major UK cities, property prices in Manchester remain relatively affordable. This affordability, coupled with strong rental yields, makes Manchester an attractive destination for property investors looking to maximize returns on their investment. Whether you are a first-time investor or seasoned property professional, Manchester offers a range of investment opportunities to suit every budget and investment strategy. Over here, you can see that we had a very steady growth in the last decade. In 2013, there's about, in terms of the price transaction, you're looking at an average of £17,000. And then you see that now the average price point is almost £250,000. So that's a very, very convincing story for investment in Manchester. Manchester boasts a diverse and dynamic rental market driven by its large student population, young professionals, and an increasing number of people relocating to the city for work. Population in Manchester grew by just under 2.6%, which was faster than London at 1.2%. So that is also why a lot of our clients who have already invested in London, for example, are now coming back to us and wondering what else they should diversify in. And we always recommend as Manchester as the next city they should diversify. Yep, and you can see here in terms of the rental growth, Manchester has achieved a higher rental growth at 19.6%, higher than Birmingham or Edinburgh. Compared to property prices in London, you can see that Manchester prices remain relatively affordable. This affordability, coupled with your strong rental yields, basically, would make Manchester an attractive destination for property investors looking to maximize returns on their investment, as I've mentioned before. Of course, no different than any other cities in the world, prime location will, of course, see a higher growth in rentals. The housing target for the next 10 years still is not enough to meet the demand of the growing population. As you can see here from the infograph, how little the inventory has been for Manchester. Supply has been notably squeezed since 2020, and the city's strong rental demand ensures consistent rental yields that provides a stable income stream for property investors. So you might want to know who are the typical occupier profile. We have already established that in Manchester, you have a very affluent young professionals, young families, expats, international students who are all working. Many of them went to university and post-graduation in Manchester. They stayed on because all of these big global corporations are there to retain and attract young talent. So the age group, like I said, median of 30. Where do they work? Spinningfield, Media City. For those who are not yet familiar with Manchester, yeah, the places of interest that they work and spend time at: Spinningfields, Media City, and in terms of the rental that you're paying at the moment is 1,004 to 1,006 per calendar month for one bed, or 2,000 to 2,200 per calendar month. At the moment, the yield is around 5 to 6%, depending on the type of property that you are investing in. And the forecast is on an upwards trajectory. So when we study which city we want to invest or recommend for our investors to invest, we always look at the urban planning of that city. Regeneration and redevelopment is very important. You need to know what is happening in the city to ensure that there is definitely that positive growth for you to maximize your investment. So Manchester is undergoing extensive regeneration and redevelopment, transforming various neighborhoods for property investments and creating new opportunities. Areas such as Encourt, Salford Quays, Northern Quarter, we have seen significant revitalization that attracts a lot of investors, not just property investors, but also businesses seeking capital growth potential. The city's commitment to regeneration is very important because it ensures that property values continue to appreciate over time, providing investors with the opportunity to achieve attractive rental returns on your investment. And you can see here from the infograph, the top 5 growth cities in terms of sectors such as office, urban logistics, self-storage, single-family homes are all indicating that Manchester will succeed above and beyond other cities in the UK. Everyone wants to know what the future holds. But of course, unfortunately, nobody has a crystal ball. However, I always say fundamental factors such as the increasing population and the lack of supply are important to present a very favorable outcome for the property market. And this is the forecast for Manchester. You can see that we are expecting a cumulative growth or effective growth of 19.3% up to 2027. And also in terms of the rental, we are looking at 21.6%. And that's also why for myself, I have investments my family have investments in London, and recently, when we look at our portfolio, we want to diversify on our investment. We recently bought into Manchester as well because we believe in the city. I went to visit Manchester twice last year. It is really changed from a decade ago when I first visited. You can see the hustle and bustle of the city life. You can see very affluent individuals, professionals walking around the city, renting very nice prime properties in the city center, which makes it convincing for me to also put my money in the city. And hence why, as a company, we are here to provide you with the opportunity to diversify in Manchester as well. So that's it for me. And I am going to pass on to William, who is the sales manager from Salboy. So William.
Hello, thank you, Leah. Can you hear me okay? Okay,
Yeah.
well, thank you for having me. And as Widya said, I'm one of the business development managers here at Salboy, and I would just like to share a bit more about who Salboy is. So who is Salboy apart from a property developer? Our owner is actually one of our owners, Mr. Fred Dunn. He's actually the owner of Betfred. Now, anyone who likes sporting events may have seen our Betfred logo before. We also do a lot of sponsorships with Manchester United and Salford FC. And because we are one of the top developers in Manchester, we also do a lot of charity work with the local council as well. So as in this picture, you can actually see Princess Margaret and the former Prime Minister, Boris Johnson. This was actually at an opening ceremony because we opened up a nursing home for the elderly there. Okay. Okay, so just to share a bit more about our background, there's actually 3 arms to our business. So we didn't actually develop Salboy Developments until 2014. We originally was a finance company called Salboy Build Partner. This is where we actually lent money to a lot of the developers in Manchester and across the UK to help fund their projects. So, you know, with obviously COVID previously, a lot of inflation happened. So sometimes we are approached by these developers to actually, you know, help fund their projects. Okay. Second part of our business is Domus Construction. Now, this is our own construction company. And why this is important to us is from concept to completion, we have full control of timing and the actual funding of the actual entire project. And then finally, we do have Salboy Developments, where we thought we're actually lending a lot of money out to, these developers. We believed we could actually do it a lot better. So that is why we actually came up with Salboy Developments. So this is our construction company, Domus. So we obviously, the benefits of having your own construction company, there is no middlemen to actually, you know, add on profits. What this means for the end buyer is they get a high quality property from us at the best possible price. Now, just to go into some of our locations. So I am actually based in Hong Kong. This is our office here. We also have an office in Beijing and also an office in Shanghai. Coming up, we are also looking to open up in Dubai as well in the future. Now, why this is important that we feel is that we don't just want to be a developer who actually comes to your city, sell you a property, and then, you know, off we go. We want to show our clients, our buyers, that whenever they feel they have any questions and they want to find us, we are easily accessible. We want people who buy from us to be part of the Salboy family. And here is some of our developments since 2014. This is an actual map of Manchester city centre. So there's actually we've actually developed over 14 developments across Manchester, London, and also in Cornwall. And as you can see from this page here, a lot of our projects are focused in Manchester city centre. And just to give you, some images of our projects. This is the actual most recent one from us, 55, which was completed just over a year and a half ago. So a very important question on why buy from Salboy. Number one, we have a very experienced construction team. Why this is important is when you buy from us, you want to know that your project is going to be completed on time and handled in a timely manner. And by having our own construction team, we can plan the timing, plan the actual costs. So ultimately, the clients will receive their properties on time. To this date, we have never delivered a property late, only early. Strong financial backing. Why this is important. All our projects are self-funded, okay? Before we actually put our projects to market, we have already started working on the project. So there's going to be no, hesitation on, is my project going to be started? Is it going to be completed on time? We are always one step ahead, and we can show our buyers a monthly construction update, so they feel part of the whole process from start to finish. Finally, we are the only first-class developer, not just to build, multiple stories, selling thousands and thousands of units. We will also take on boutique projects as well. So quite recently, we had one project on Deansgate, Manchester, which is M1 postcode. This was actually offered to many people by the Manchester Council, but a lot of developers are always looking at the profit margin. For us, we're not in it for about property because the owner, he has plenty of money with his Betfred company. He wanted to make a statement that Salboy could actually deliver something that no one else could. So that is why it's important to have these three key factors in place, whether you buy from Salboy or not. Always do your research on the actual developer to know that you are dealing with a reputable company. Okay, so I'm very excited to actually introduce Waterhouse Gardens to the viewers today. And just to give you a little background on how it performed, 2 weeks ago, I actually took this project to Singapore, and there was actually a record number of sales during this weekend, double digits, which in the current market is absolutely unheard of. The buyers in Singapore saw this as a great investment. They saw the actual potential in this project, which is why they were willing to, commit to this actual project. So a bit of background of where Waterhouse Gardens is and how convenient it is to a lot of the amenities around. So Manchester College is actually just directly a 5-minute walk away, okay? This actual college will be targeted for any overseas students who are looking to study music, arts, and this college itself has just been granted permission to build a £38 million extension. Why is this going to be important to all the buyers who purchase this area? This is another tenant pool for you, okay? So with the expansion, it's going to welcome you, over 25,000 students. The way that Manchester works is, whether they're going to university or going to college, the first year, they will actually live in the university or college dormitories. Second year, they will go out to actually rent their own property. And this being directly, within 5 minutes away, is going to be a perfect choice for them. So here is a map of where Waterhouse Gardens is exactly. So As you can see, it's only a 7-minute walk from Victoria Station. Now, Victoria Station, to put into perspective how significant this is, it is one of the main depots, train stations in Manchester. So here they can either get a train to surrounding cities, or they can actually connect with the Metro link, which is a circular of the whole of Manchester city centre. So wherever they want to go in Manchester city centre, all they need to do, walk 7 minutes, and they can actually travel there very quickly. So here is a kind of like a bird's eye view of the location of where we are. So in the red area is where our project is going to be situated. And just above the actual red block, as I mentioned before, this is the Manchester College. So for the arts and music students. Right next door, which is also about a 6-minute walk, is AO Manchester Arena. Now, this is the actual UK's largest indoor arena. So any international celebrities such as your Taylor Swifts, your Blackpinks, whenever they come to Manchester, this is where they will perform. Okay. And if you look to the left, you will see Victoria Train and Metro Station. So this shows you how close you are and how convenient it is for you to travel in and around this area. And with a lot of students now, they like to have convenience. Just a bit more to the left is Noma, which is a new financial hub for Manchester as well. Okay, and just to give you a quick overview of the Manchester train network, as you can see where Waterhouse Gardens is, you are currently in Zone 1. So if anyone knows anything about the UK train system, anything within the Zone 1 area is going to be the most attractive, and obviously it will command a good premium for properties as well. Okay, so just to give you some key facts about Waterhouse Gardens. The whole project will be complete in Q2 2026, estimated. Tenure, which is 999, will only start once the project is completed. Okay. Local authority, Manchester City Council, architect, Studio Power, Asel and Architecture. So today what we currently have on offer is Block A, which is 26 stories high, and Block C, which is 11 stories high. The total number of units for this development is 556. So this will actually become very significant when it comes to the accessibility of the amenities. So there's also available here 1, 2, and 3 bedrooms. So it welcomes a lot of tenants who want to live there, or business people who want have a small family to live there. So depending on whether you buy for self-use or you are buying it as an investment, it is ideal for you there. Okay. Ground rent, nil. Service charge is going to be estimated at £4.50 per square foot per annum. And the prices start from £243,000. Now, being from Manchester myself, this project is actually, for me, very exciting. I've watched Manchester grow from a young age to what I am now, and it is forever changing. And as Whittier mentioned before, it's becoming more and more like international. There's an array of different people from different backgrounds, and it is, up and coming even more and more. So when it comes to facilities, you do have concierge service. There are private lounges for the residents, games room, private cinema room. So if you and your friends want to have like a movie night, there is a room available for you to actually reserve and use. Private dining space, if you have quite a number of friends coming over and you want to host a dinner party, but your apartment may not house them all, then of course you can use a private dining space as well and invite a chef to cook for you. Co-working space. So this has become a very popular amenity for a lot of people, because the way that UK has started to evolve in the job wise, many people will start working from home, maybe 1 or 2 days a week. So when there's access to a co-working space, it gives you more comfort and all the business amenities that you will need. Okay. You also have a multi-use squash and basketball court, half court, swimming pool, ice punch pool, spa, a fully equipped 2,500 square foot gym, and private residential gardens. So this is something I'd like to also elaborate on as well. There is no actual project in Manchester at the moment that actually offers all this amenities. A lot of you who have actually looked at Manchester before and maybe can relate, you will just see apartment blocks, towers and towers. But what we are doing different here is we're actually building a community. It's going to be a place where residents are going to want to relax. And it's also going to be a place where a lot of neighbouring people will also want to go and enjoy as well. And I'll tell you the reason why a little bit later. So this is some architect sketches of how the development will look. So here, as I was saying before, why it's going to be a place where not only residents are going to want to relax and enjoy on their time off, but also neighbouring residents. There's going to be a total of 16 commercial units covering a space of 30,000 square feet. Now, this is going to be a mixture of cafes, restaurants, supermarkets, trendy Shake Shacks, because everyone's always looking about, their health now and how they want to stay more in shape. So this is going to be a great place for people to enjoy. So if you can imagine, at your doorstep, there's 16 retail spaces for you to enjoy. Potentially, you don't actually need to leave the actual complex. Here's another view of the actual Woodhouse Gardens. This here is the private residence garden, only accessible to residents. This is what you'll face when you come through to the concierge. This is an image of the sunken garden by the plunge pool and swimming pool. Private library for you to actually just, relax, enjoy with a coffee and do some quiet reading. Communal workspace area. And for this one, we have done a very conservative estimate, okay? So this is based on a lot of properties that's in the area currently and what they are commanding. Bear in mind, a lot of these developments do not house half of the amenities we do. So if you're looking at a one bed, size of 450 square foot, you're potentially looking at a rental of £1,450. A one bed over 550 square foot, you're commanding up to 1,650. Two bed, 750 square foot, you're now commanding over £2,000 in rental. And bear in mind, we still have a couple of years before this actual project is complete. And with the way that the rental market is going in Manchester, these figures are going to look a lot more attractive. So we actually have a very simple payment scheme. So if any of the clients choose their unit, very simple, they put down a £2,000 reservation fee. 28 days later is when they make their first official payment and what we call the exchange of contracts. So here they would pay 25% minus the £2,000 they previously actually paid. And then there's nothing to actually pay until completion. Now, at the bottom in yellow, what you'll see is something that no other developer will actually offer. This is the 25% down payment, which is protected by and guaranteed by the Betfred Group Limited. Now, in the UK, by law, a developer only has to guarantee 10%. But we said that is not good enough. We will cover the whole 25%. So anyone that is buying with Salboy can have the ease of mind that their money is going to be safe. But as I said, we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. If something did happen to Salboy, you are entitled to your full down payment back. No questions asked. And then finally, once you've done the completion, and if you are buying it for investment, you can then obviously contact Whittier and she will help you to find tenants to rent your unit. Okay, so now I'll pass you over to Oscar and he will obviously go through the education side.
Hello, everyone. Great to be here and great to be talking about two of my favorite things, education in Britain and Manchester. We've heard so much about Manchester already, and hopefully I'll bring a little bit more focus on the education side of the opportunities in Manchester over the next 15 minutes or so. So just before I get stuck into that, just to let you know who I am. I've been working in education for well, over a decade now and helping families and students from around the world come to the UK for their studies, whether that's for prep schools, high schools, or for university as well. And that passion of mine for helping students come and study in the UK really comes from my own opportunities in education, starting from having a scholarship at Eton College, progressing through to study land economy at the University of Cambridge, and more recently, having a scholarship to study an accelerated MBA at the University of Oxford. All of those opportunities exposed me to what education can be and what it should be. It also gave me a fantastic set of connections at top universities with which to help our students make that transition from wherever they are in the world to the best schools and the best universities in the world. So that's where I'm coming from and my perspective on things. But of course, today we're talking about education in Manchester. And Manchester is a really special place for me. It's where my wife and my parents-in-law come from and still live. And so I spend a lot of time in Manchester. It's a city that I've seen change enormously over the last 10 years. And I think a really exciting place to be considering either for property or for education. Manchester has so much going for it. And I think one of the words that summarizes Manchester for me over the last 10 years is this idea of trajectory. The change and development in Manchester compared to other cities in the UK and around the world is absolutely phenomenal. And I think one of the big drivers for that success is the leadership of the city. The city has a really, really strong mayor that has developed a unique strategy for growth for not just the city centre, but the greater Manchester area. And it's been so successful that it's now being copied by other cities around the UK. But this has meant that it currently has the second fastest growth in jobs anywhere in the UK. And yet it's also ranked first for student affordability. So it's a city that has brilliant growth, brilliant prospects, and yet when we're thinking about students in education, still has that affordability side to it, which is really intriguing. Of course, it's a massive cultural hub. It has well-known musicians. It's been churning out musicians for the last 30, 40, 50 years. And it's just about to open the largest indoor arena anywhere in the UK. So it's still innovating on the music side of things. Of course, it's famous for football with City and United both playing there. And also with the creative arts. And you'll see on your screen here a mosaic, of the worker bee. Now, if you go to Manchester, you will see this bee all over the city. And it's an emblem of the people. And it talks about the worker bee a group of people in Manchester that collaborate with each other and work hard towards success. And I think you can really see that in Manchester today. So let's talk a little bit about some of the academic success of Manchester. And I just wanted to start actually, not with universities, but with high schools, because I think Manchester has incredibly strong high schools that fly a little bit under the radar. And so I wanted to pull out some comparisons, and I'm comparing A-level results in 2023, so the last year of A-level results. And in that top line, you can see that Harrow in 2023 secured 68% of their A-level grades as A star or A. Now, Harrow, of course, you'll all have heard of this school, an amazing school based near London, and 68% is a really, really good score. However, it's beaten quite comfortably by Manchester Grammar, which secured 73% of all of their A-levels as A star or A grades, 5 percentage points higher than Harrow. And it's the same story when we make the comparison for girls' schools as well. Benham, a school in the south with an amazing reputation, huge heritage, and really in demand for study abroad, secured 57% A star A at A level, compared to 60% at Altrincham Girls. I had to put Altrincham Girls in there because that's where my wife studied. And it just shows, I think, that even in high schools, Manchester has this real strength and history of world-class education, and is really worth considering, either for your children or if you're looking at an investment property. It's really alluring for many parents. Now, of course, we also have the University of Manchester. It is a world-class institution. In the UK, its QS ranking is 6 and it's 32 globally, but over 93% of the research that it produces is graded world leading. So this is not just an undergraduate university, but has a massive specialism in postgraduate and research. At the same time, it's also ranked first for student experience and affordability, like I mentioned earlier. So this is a place that students love to study, not just for the education, but for the experience, the culture, the music, the sport. It really is an amazing opportunity. And despite all of this fantastic research, ranking, affordability, it is only ranked 20th in terms of difficulty to apply. And for me, that's really important because we suddenly realize that we have this amazing place to study that is not that hard to get a place at. And for almost all of the students that my team work with, we will recommend considering Manchester as one of your 5 university options, because it's highly likely that you're going to get a place there. And whether that's as your first choice or a backup choice, it's a great option to have on the table. So let's look at how we build successful applications. And we're going to start by looking briefly at the UK high school applications or senior schools. Now, if you're considering sending a child to be educated in school in the UK, there are 2 main entry points. The first is at age 13, and that means you'll be joining in year 9. That's the first year of senior school in the UK. If you join at that time, you have the whole of year 9 to bed in and learn the foundational concepts before you start a 2-year GCSE course in year 10 and 11. So really, this is the best time to join because you get that 1 year to get your feet under the table before you start focusing on your GCSEs and grades that will count towards university applications later on. There is, however, a second entry point, and that is the 16 plus, and that's joining age 16 in year 12. Now, if you join in year 12, you join directly into a 2-year A-level course. There's obviously some challenges with that because you don't have the same time to get your feet under the table. However, it means that when you apply for universities, you have A-level scores and a reference from a UK school. And that really helps with the application process. So just looking a little bit more closely at the process if you want to join at age 13. And those of you that are eagle-eyed will notice that the process is a really, really long one for the top schools. So if you want to join a school in September 2027, age 13, the registration deadline for most of those schools is in June this year. So you only have 2 months to get your registrations in. Once you've registered in November, this November, you sit the ICB pre-test. So that will test English, maths, verbal reasoning, and non-verbal reasoning. As a general guideline for top schools, you want to be achieving 120 or better out of 142. If you pass that test, you go forward to the school's own tests and interviews, which will happen between January and May. And after that, if all goes well, you'll be given a conditional offer. And that conditional offer is based on passing the common entrance test or the school's own test in June 2027. Now, I just mentioned here that I have never known a student, certainly no student of mine, to be given an offer and then to fail the common entrance. The hardest thing is to get the offer. So it does mean that if you do well by January 2025, you could have your school sorted for September 2027, which gives you so much certainty. It's really lovely to have that. The 16+ entry route is thankfully much simpler. As a general guideline, you want to apply 1 year before you're due to start. So if you want to join at age 16 in 2025, you need to register by August 2024, this year. The first thing you'll do is you'll sit maths, English, and reasoning tests before going forward in October for school tests and interviews. And these interviews for the sixth form applications, the 16+, are incredibly important. You'll have interviews with a housemaster, potentially with a headmaster, and potentially with the heads of subjects as well. The university application timelines and process is also very simple, particularly when you compare it to other countries around the world. We have a system called UCAS, which manages all of the applications centrally, and you can apply for a maximum of 5 universities. And you do all of those applications through one simple portal called UCAS. It's brilliant. If you are looking to go to a good university, so Oxbridge, G5, or Russell Group, of which Manchester is one of those, you're going to be looking at submitting your application in October 2024 in order to start your studies in September 2025, 1 year later. And the things that you need to submit on that deadline in October is your personal statement. Now, this is changing a little bit this year, but there is still going to be a personal statement element in the application. You submit your final grades or predicted grades, a reference letter, which must be from your current school, and IELTS, if you need to study IELTS to give an English qualification. Now, Oxbridge and the G5 will then take you forward for admissions tests and interviews between December and February. These are by far and away the hardest part of the application process. So we only recommend the strongest students to do it. However, it's an amazing opportunity if you get to study there. So just a couple of success cases. All of these schools we've had success at within the last 18 months. And in fact, we had our most recent success case at Eton College just last week. So it's nice to have that ongoing connection with the school. When it comes to Oxbridge, last year we had a 55% success rate for our students, and over 95% of our students successfully went to the G5. We also didn't have a single rejection from the University of Manchester. So when we're talking about having a guaranteed pathway into the University of Manchester, we really mean it. Of course, when you have those sorts of numbers that we're able to quote, we've won several awards in terms of study abroad and bilingual education consultancies, which is always nice to have. So I think I will leave it there and pass back potentially for some Q&A, I think.
Yeah, thank you very much. So the presenters. Now it's Q&A session. We actually received a couple of Q&A prior to registration prior to the webinar. I'll kick off then. Since Oscar, you just presented, how about we go for the questions to you? I know you have give examples of when parents should apply for their kids, but can you advise how long does the application process take for the schools, and whether it includes interviews and so on?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the timelines are the most important question when you're looking at school applications. And generally, the guidance is that the best schools require you to apply 3 years before you're due to start. So if you want to start age 13, you should be registering at age 10 and sitting your first round of tests and interviews at age 10. Now, some schools have zero flexibility with that. A school like Eton, for example, if you miss the deadline, you miss the deadline. Other schools will have deadlines, but with the right connections and relationships that we have with the registrars, if we miss a deadline, we can get our students registered. So there is some flexibility in there. And in fact, a school like Rugby, which is one of the best private schools in the UK, actually reserves 30% of its places for the headmaster's discretion to be awarded the year before you're due to start. So last year we had a student accepted in May to start in September. So there are some flexibility on those timelines, but as a general guidance, if you don't want to miss out, it's much better to register as early as possible.
Okay, that's good. And usually how long is the offer valid? For example, go ahead.
So the offer you'll know when you're applying to start when you register. So when you register, the school will ask you, what is your ideal intake? Is it 13 starting in 2026? Is it age 16 starting in 2025? And the offer will be valid if you're accepted up until that starting point. The schools, all of these schools that we're talking about today, also sponsor visas, which is a really important part of the process of study abroad and coming to the UK. For the younger children as well, they can have a supporting parent to come and travel with them. So if you're applying for a young child below the age of 12, if they come to study in the UK as a parent, you can come to the UK as well. Sadly, you're not able to work, but you can be there with your child to support them as they're going through the education process.
Right, and you would also assist in those visa applications for the family?
Yeah, absolutely. The good thing is with the schools, they're so familiar with students coming from overseas to come and study in the UK. They know exactly the letters that need to be issued and the process that needs to be followed. And for all of our families, we offer a sort of an end-to-end service, which we make sure that we meet the requirements for those visas. It's a painless process. The hardest thing is to get the offer. And once we have that offer, everything else can flow from that really easily.
That's good to know. Next question, probably for William. Thanks for sharing the regeneration plan around Waterhouse Gardens. Perhaps you can share a little bit more about future pipelines in Greater Manchester in terms of housing that, as a developer, you know of.
Yeah, I mean, Manchester to a lot of people is no stranger for the property market. I mean, this Manchester city centre, it's not a big city. Probably you can walk from north to south of Manchester city centre in about 30 minutes. So if you can imagine, the Manchester being able to retain a lot of the talent from the colleges, more and more of the listed companies moving up north, property is becoming more sought after. So with that bearing in mind, we are the only developer that is still continue to build within the city centre. We do have a new project that's just been launched in the Chapel Wharf area, Greengate. So when you're obviously talking about the regeneration area, there are a number of places in Manchester that are regenerating. So where we are with Waterhouse Garden, this area is the last regeneration area of Manchester. However, you do still have where another one of our projects is, Victoria House, in the New Islington area. This is also a regeneration area. So a lot of things are still continuing to happen, and I do believe that Manchester, and as part of the Northern Powerhouse, are continued to build plans, because every time they are looking to expand, they probably do it on a 10 or 20 year time frame. So a lot of people who are, thinking, have I missed a boat to invest in Manchester? Absolutely not. There is still a lot of room to actually develop. Some areas are more mature, so they are going to be looking at something that's already generating a good rental track record. But the beauty of where Waterhouse Garden is, we are one of the first developers to actually start regenerating or start building in this last regeneration area. Everything thereafter is going to be behind Waterhouse Gardens, which there is still space to actually develop. But as a lot of people or a lot of investors will know, if you are the first to actually invest in one of the regeneration areas, everything that's going to be built thereafter is only going to drive the capital appreciation of the original development up. So if you're looking at it from, a short-term investment, then great. Rental yields is going to be absolutely fantastic. Last year, the rental records for Manchester exceeded all expectations and hit 9%. I'm not going to say it's going to do that every year, but for the past 10 years, it's been consistent of between 5 to 5.3%. So this is the actual plan for Manchester. And I do believe that for the next 20 years, it will still continue to grow.
Yep, that's actually a very positive outlook, which is why even for my family, as I mentioned, decided to also invest in Manchester. And you coming from Manchester, there's a question about the primary and secondary schools, in proximity to Waterhouse Gardens. In terms of probably traveling time, are you able to share a little bit of those schools?
Yeah, I mean, Manchester is very well known for, obviously its universities, 3 major universities that's within a 15-minute proximity of any one of our developments, including Waterhouse Gardens. But obviously not everyone is going to be an international student that's going to be starting off and going to university. So within the actual areas, you're very easily going to find anywhere between 6 to 8 primary schools, secondary schools, even sixth form colleges, all within the area. Me being from Manchester myself, I also studied at one of the local primary schools, and then obviously moved to kind of like a secondary school as well.
Okay. And this is like a very, very common question that we get from parents. Do you suggest we rent or buy?
From my point of view, and from what I've seen in the market, if you have the intentions of sending your child to study overseas, then of course I would say be smart and buy whilst the actual price is still very affordable. Because ultimately, if you're going to rent, you're potentially paying for someone else's mortgage. Whereas if you're buying, even though your child may not be ready to actually accommodate that property, you still have a very good chance to obviously find tenants and gain a great rental yield, as well as a good capital appreciation. Because likely by the time your child actually goes over and does study after graduating, with the actual percentage of around about 51% of Manchester retaining its talent after they graduate, it's highly likely they will use the property themselves. So, you know, not saying that everyone will stay in Manchester. Some might actually go back home to actually work or further studies. But ultimately, you've got a win-win situation with rental yield and capital appreciation.
Exactly. And I think it's also about wealth preservation as well, right? As property prices starts to grow, it's a way of parents to, I guess, help their children to step on the property ladder. And sometimes if you hold it long enough and the price goes up, it pays off the education investment that you have on your kids. Well, I'm very mindful that we have now passed the hour. So I'd like to thank both William and Oscar for their insightful presentation this evening. I know that there's a lot more, burning questions that you may have, whether you want to speak to Benham and Reeves team, or if you want to have a meeting with William, we are more than happy to arrange for a Zoom. And if you are parents wanting to have a more dedicated one-to-one consultation on education migration, feel free to reach out to us and we will connect you with Oscar in due time. Thank you, everyone, and happy Labor Day to everybody. Enjoy the long week, the break this midweek. See you soon.
Thank you.